an expert on children's food, written 50 books. We have an app. We make food for supermarkets here in the UK and Australia. They said to me, you should write a book about feeding children. I can't even type. How am I going to write a book? As a way to come to terms with her death and make some meaning from her short life, I would try and write this book.
This is Catch-Ups in My Kitchen, the catch-up you need every week in order to look, feel and be the best version of yourself. Join me in my kitchen every week as I speak to a new guest about all things food, health and wellness. Whether it's a specialist in their field, an inspiring story, or just a big girly catch-up full of all the recommendations, tips and advice. In my kitchen, we talk about it all. Hey guys, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Catch-Ups in My Kitchen with me, Georgia Simmons, host of the podcast. In my kitchen this week, I am joined by Annabel Karmel, who is the author of over 50 children's cookbooks. Annabel also has an amazing food range in supermarkets and really is the queen when it comes to children's food and nutrition. In this episode, we hear Annabel's journey, as well as hear her share tips and tricks when it comes to children's food, fussy eaters, and what it's like to be a mum. I loved this episode, and Annabel's journey and career is so inspiring, so I think you're going to love it. Without further ado, let's go and join Annabel in the kitchen. Annabel, welcome to my kitchen. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
So great to have you here. Do you mind giving a quick elevator pitch, who you are for those who don't know and what you do?
So I'm Annabel Karmel. I am an expert on children's food, written 50 books. We have an app. We make food for supermarkets here in the UK and Australia. And I'm a mum of 3 children and 5 dogs.
Amazing. The dogs definitely count as well.
Absolutely. I've written a dog cookbook, so they definitely count.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. Before we get into everything, I have a quick fire round about all things food.
Okay.
So what is your favourite restaurant in London?
Do you know, it changes quite a lot. Currently, I would say that it's just a very local restaurant, but it's really lovely and it's just opened. It's called Huo and it's in Belsize Park and it's beautifully designed and a great menu. And they make a very good lychee martini.
Love that. Love that. Love that. What is one wellness brand or product that you can't live without?
A wellness brand I can't live without. I don't know. I don't look after myself very well. So I just, when it comes to wellness brands, I would say that the one thing that I do in the morning is I take a vitamin D spray. And I think it's very important. You just spray like 3 times into your mouth because you can't really get vitamin D from anything other than sunlight. And I don't go in the sunlight that much and we don't have much sun. So I think it's very important. A lot of people are vitamin D deficient, especially as you get older as a woman. So I would advise everybody, including children, to have a vitamin D supplement.
That's
and
really
it's so
good.
easy. You just spray it 1, 2, 3, and that's it in the morning.
Spray is quite good as well. I bet it kind of gets into the system.
It does. It gets into the system and it's very well absorbed.
That's really, really
so
good.
So that I think is a really good thing.
What is your hangover meal?
My hangover meal. I make this muesli, which is like, I was taught to make it when I was in Zermatt. I love skiing. And the chef, he got it from a Swiss like sanatorium, which is really healthy. And what it is, it's oats and almond milk, and it's got yogurt in it. It's got chia seeds, sesame seeds, apple, a little bit of honey, and some toasted nuts, which are then chopped up. And it's absolutely delicious. And it can stay in the fridge for about 3 days, but it never does because everybody loves it. And I was always skiing with my children, and now they all make it every day as well, like almost like twice a week, really.
I love that.
And everybody loves it. And it's so healthy. And if you eat that for breakfast, you never want anything to eat until lunchtime. It's a recipe on my app. It's so easy and quick to make.
I love that. I'm such a breakfast person.
And you know what? Cereals aren't good anymore.
They're
just
not.
tasteless. They taste like cardboard.
They taste like cardboard and they're full of rubbish.
Well, yes, but sometimes they're not even full of rubbish. It's just they've taken anything out that tastes nice
to
make them sort of healthy. And I just don't like them anymore. So I just make my own muesli and my own granola, which are delicious.
Oh my God, I love that.
Because I think breakfast is very important. If you miss breakfast, just, kind of you're snacking on unhealthy foods during the morning.
I agree.
So good breakfast is really important. I always eat fruit, especially vitamin C rich fruit like kiwi and blueberries because vitamin C is, you can't store it in your body. You need to have it every day.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm going to check out those recipes for sure. What is your favorite coffee shop?
Actually, my favorite coffee shop is at home.
I love that. Me too.
I literally love my Nespresso machine, and I just prefer that coffee to anywhere else. It's just so funny. And I don't really go to a Starbucks or anywhere else like that.
No.
I usually have it at home, and I have an espresso machine in my office, and I use those gold capsules, either the caffeinated ones or the ones with caffeine, but they both taste good.
I love
And I've got so used to that. And it's funny to think that, not so long ago, we were all living off like those granules, like instant coffee, and we thought that was okay.
I know.
And now we can't drink that anymore.
We can't drink that.
No.
If I get served that, I'm like, oh, no.
But I always like my coffee black. And it's interesting because I didn't like coffee for years, and it was just so antisocial because I don't particularly like tea either. So I trained myself to like coffee, and now I can't live without it.
I do believe you can train yourself to like things.
I did.
Yeah, because that was like me with celery. I
Yes.
used to not like celery, and I used to want to like it.
That's funny because I don't really like celery, but I like celery in a recipe, but not crunching on celery. But you can train yourself to like it. Now, I can't really start the morning without having a coffee.
Yeah.
But I never used to drink coffee. I think for 5 years I've been drinking coffee now.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I love coffee as well. Which food for you is a complete no-no?
Beetroot.
Oh, I was surprised by that because I feel like it's a kind of fruit, a vegetable, that you'd have in a lot of kind of foods and recipes. But that's a niche one.
I do like it when I make a beetroot chocolate brownie or when I do beetroot, raspberries, strawberries as a lolly. But actual beetroot, it spreads on everything. So it has its tentacles in all the other food that it touches. And I just never liked beetroot. So
Yeah, it's very messy as well if you get it on your hands.
it is quite messy.
And lastly, what is your favorite dish to cook at home?
Wow, because I love so many things, to be honest. I love Japanese food. So I make a lot of Japanese style dishes. I make my own sushi, and I also love seafood. So spaghetti with seafood is one of my signature meals. But then I make like comfort food, like apple crumble and a hidden vegetable bolognese. It's very hard. Like when I write a book, like kind of the most recent recipes I've made are my favorite recipes, and I move on to another book, and then they're my favorite recipes. You keep on changing some of your tastes.
Yeah.
Depending on, the latest recipes you've cooked.
No, that's
And sometimes
true.
people say, well, I love that recipe you made. And I can't even remember it because it was in like book number 4 and it's now book number 50. And they have to explain to me what's in that recipe. And then I remember it and I make it again. I think, oh, yeah, that was good.
Oh,
But
I
must have like spent more time cooking for children and families than anybody in the whole world, literally.
Literally. I think when food is your career and also your passion, like it's fun to create new things. So you probably don't have like a standard one.
I'm always trying new things. I'm super lucky that I'm obsessed with food. I think about food all the time. I eat a huge amount of food. I love going out to eat, but I love cooking at home, cooking for friends and cooking for children. And I design recipes and menus for hotels all over the world. And then I do ready meals and cookbooks and my app. So my whole life revolves around food. I usually have food on me. I don't know why. I just feel more comfortable when I have food in my handbag.
I love that. You just
Somebody
never
once
know.
stole my handbag and all they would find in it was some cheese and some nuts and some raisins. There wasn't much else in it.
I love it. Well, you just never know. You never know. Well, on that, my first question to you is, can you describe your first food memory?
Well, I remember my mother told me that I was really bad when I was breastfeeding, and my mother used to tickle my feet to wake me up. And it's funny because now I love my feet being stroked. So it must have something to do with that.
Yeah.
And I was such a bad eater that when I came off the breast milk, and you would never do this now, she was recommended by her pediatrician to give me carnation milk out of a tin.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I drank. And also she gave me lots of tea with milk. And now I can't drink tea. I don't like tea anymore. I think she overdid the tea. So I remember, I mean, I don't remember that, but I remember it as an anecdote. The first thing I remember eating is actually my mother had this Constant Spry cookbook. People of her age will remember it. And it was a huge tome and it was like a pinky purple color. And it was absolutely huge. It had no pictures in it. And she made this pizza out of fresh yeast with the base and this tomato topping. It was absolutely sensational, this fresh pizza. And when she was cooking it, the smell in the kitchen was incredible. And me and my brother, we literally devoured it. And she was also very good at making healthy food look good. I think maybe that's what got me into the idea of like presentation is really important because children eat with their eyes. And when I came home from school, she would take, cottage cheese with pineapple and she put it into an ice cream scoop. So like an igloo in the middle of the plate. And then she cut up fruit and put it all the way around. And fruit in a fruit bowl children will just walk straight past it. But if it's all colourful fruit, like made to look really pretty on a plate with this igloo in the middle, it's just so appetizing that they'll just, they'll eat it. And she realized that after school is probably a window of opportunity because most people don't like their school lunch. Mine was terrible. And that I would eat more or less what I was given. And so she'd made sure that after school I was given healthy food. Whereas often you give children like a biscuit or a packet of they call them like healthy snacks and this whole proliferation of like toddler snacks, but they've actually got nothing in them. So I think fruit, vegetables, and making snacks a big part of your nutrition is very important.
Yeah.
So she was very good at that.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I do think I personally love presenting my food well. It makes me enjoy the whole experience.
Me too.
Better. And my mum's always like, why are you taking so much time to like present like, I don't know, my granola bowl or
yes.
And I'm like, oh, but I love like putting the fruit in rows and like I just enjoy eating with my eyes. I think that is so easy.
You can make like a fruit rainbow on a bowl and children would just love that.
Yeah, no, completely.
Because you know what they do? They say, I don't like it, and they haven't taken the first mouthful. So you've got to get past that base where they actually try it.
That's so true, actually. And so often if it looks like, I guess also making it look like a toy in a way, like colours and they can use their hands and that kind of thing. They're like, oh, that's kind of fun for them to start the journey of actually eating the food.
Yes.
So
I make lots of food into small balls because they can pick them up with their fingers. And when they get to the age of 1, they become very independent. They want to feed themselves. And it's so easy because you can just put everything into a food processor. Let's say it's salmon, quinoa, spinach, breadcrumbs, onion. So super healthy. And then you just make them into balls, put them in an air fryer, cook them up. And then you've made bulk food that you can put in the freezer and children love it. And I did a whole book called Finger Food Book because I think people run out of ideas and just do like carrot sticks and cucumber sticks and hummus. But what else can you give children that they can hold with their fingers and they're soft and they won't choke? So I did some great recipes for that. It's been really popular.
That is amazing. So on this, how did your kind of career start?
Well, it began with a tragedy, something that no one would expect. So I had spent 2 years trying to get pregnant, eventually got pregnant and gave birth to a little girl called Natasha. So I was over the moon having a daughter. And then one day she was 3 months old and she didn't look quite right. And her eyes are rolling back and her hand was twitching. And I called my doctor and he said, oh, you first-time mothers, you worry about your children. I'm sure she's fine. But after a lot of persuasion, I insisted that he saw her. So I brought her to see him. And again, he said like, no, she's fine. Went back home. Next morning, she looked worse and she projectile vomited. Went to another doctor in Harley Street. And then he examined her and then he said, I've got to go and see another patient. Left me for 10 minutes. He didn't go and see another patient. He told me later that he tried to get a bed at Great Ormond Street because he knew that something was seriously wrong with her. And he just said to me in a very matter-of-fact way, I think there's something wrong with your child's brain. And I took her to St. Mary's and I couldn't get a bed at Great Ormond Street. And they did a lot of tests on her. At 5 o'clock, they did a CAT scan. And they took me into a room and put this CAT scan on a light board and basically said to me, she'll never be normal again. Or she might die and we can't treat her here. And we're transferring her to Great Ormond Street Hospital. And the first night she was in a normal ward. Second night she was in intensive care. Third day she was on a ventilator. And on the 5th day, they said they wanted to have a meeting with me. And they told me that the thinking part of her brain had gone and what do you want to do? And they put her in my arms and it took her like 4.5 hours for her to die. And it was the most horrendous thing to go through and my life was just shattered. And it was just like, I couldn't believe this had happened. And it was just woke up in the morning and I relived it because it was like, oh my God, this is my life now. You think it's a dream when you wake up, but it's not, it's reality. And, losing a child and breastfeeding her and all the hopes and dreams for her had gone. And everybody kind of distanced themselves from me because they didn't know what to say. So I felt very isolated. And all I wanted was to have another child. So I went to my obstetrician and I said, I can't go through another 2 years of trying to get pregnant. What can I do? And he gave me a fertility drug called Clomid. And he said, well, you might have multiple babies. And at that time, I didn't care how many babies I had as long as I had a baby. And 4 months later, I was pregnant. And it wasn't the end of the story because when I went into labor, my doctor told me it'd be a long time, even though I said I was getting contractions. And then he disappeared and I tried to call him. He said he was on his bleep, but he wasn't. And I went upstairs and the head came out and my husband had to live with this child, which is bad enough for any mother, for a mother who just lost their child. It was a nightmare because I thought I was going to lose a second child. To live with the baby on the staircase. Nobody came for 2.5 hours. And I was still attached by the cord to my son, Nick, who was my second child. And eventually, 2.5 hours later, somebody came who was actually looking after somebody else, but they were not ready to give birth, came to rescue me, cut the cord, and bundled me off to the hospital. And it was a terrible experience. Like, because I was thinking, what will I do if I lose another child? Luckily, he was fine.
Both of those experiences are
It's funny because when I gave
traumatic.
birth, you know how you normally give birth and they give you an epidural on your back? I just instinctively went on all fours. And it was the best birth I ever had. It was just, you're much easier to push on all fours, but they don't let you do that in hospital. So in that respect, it was a good birth, and the baby was okay. But the stress of like the worry that something would go wrong or the cord be around the neck, or I only had my husband with me. It was terrible. It was really bad.
That is terrifying.
It was terrifying.
Both of those situations independently are so traumatic, and combined, that's awful.
But then the question, I think, was, why did I write my book? So it was Nicholas, my second child, who was the catalyst. I was a musician. I played the harp and I sang, and I just couldn't do it after I lost Natasha. And I knew that I wanted to work with children, and I didn't know what I wanted to do until Nicholas was born. And he was fine with the breast, although he was a terrible sleeper, not the easiest child. But when it came to food, he only ate fruit and pasta and nothing else. And so I started to make up recipes for him. So, for example, he would not eat chicken. So I made my chicken apple balls with like minced thigh meat, apple grated, some breadcrumbs, a little bit of onions, some thyme, some egg, made them into little balls. And from that day on, he loved chicken. And at the time, I was running a playgroup at St. John's Wood called Babes in the Wood. And I had like maybe 60 mothers and babies coming to it every week. And I was giving them out my recipes because they were all like intrigued that I'd got Nicholas, who was the world's worst eater, to actually eat these things. So I was giving them all these recipes. And they said to me, you should write a book about feeding children. And I said, well, I can't even type. Like, how am I going to write a book? And everybody said, oh, get a proper job. You'll never get it published and whatever. And then I thought, as a way to come to terms with her death and make some meaning from her short life, I would try and write this book. So I wrote about all the recipes. And then I found the head of nutrition at the Institute of Child Health, which is attached to Great Ormond Street. That's where Natasha died. And I worked with her on the nutrition side. And I worked with like the real scientists who kind of like, they cut through all of the old wives' tales, and everything in that book was based on scientific research. So I was saying, you need to give peanut butter from 6 months. You shouldn't be delaying it. You need to give red meat because babies run out of iron. You need to give essential fatty acids. They're really important. So the book was very different from every other book. And also, everyone said babies only like bland food. And I'm trying out this bland food on all the babies in the baby group. And they didn't like the bland food. They liked it with a bit of curry in it, or a bit of like garlic and a bit of herbs. So my book was about, well, it's tasty food. And why would they not like tasty food just like us? Mm-hmm. So I don't know where they got that idea from. So my food was not bland. And that was the Complete Baby Toddler Meal Planner. But nobody wanted to publish it. I went to like 15 publishers who all turned it down. So it was eventually published by a book packager. But that book packager was actually Random House. So that was quite good. And Simon & Schuster actually took it first in America. And the book sold 5 million copies. And that's how I started my career. I never thought it would be my career. That was not the plan, except it was supposed to be my way of like my memory for Natasha and my legacy to her. But it ended up being my career.
Hey guys, I quickly wanted to interrupt the episode to talk to you about an app that I have recently downloaded. It is called OneZone, and it is a curated discovery app where you can find all the best restaurants, bars, and cafes in London. You can find the restaurants, book it, and check out the menu all in one place. I have recently been to Canteen in Notting Hill, which I absolutely loved. And I've also discovered the corner shop at 180, which I am equally obsessed with. Whether you're looking for the perfect spot for a girly catch-up or even a date night vibe, OneZone honestly have it all. I really recommend you download the app because it will completely change your lifestyle here in London. Click the link in the show notes to download the app, and when you do, let me know some of the places you discover. I know you're going to love it. This one simple thing has completely changed my life, and that is mouth taping. I have never been one to prioritize sleep, but in January I started mouth taping and my sleep and my productivity skyrocketed. The deep restorative sleep you get from mouth taping is completely insane. Nasal breathing is the way we should be breathing at night, and mouth taping really, really promotes this. I wanted to bring it to more people, so I started Healthy Habits to bring you a luxurious and aesthetic mouth tape that you can use every day and feel proud to use. If you're intrigued on the benefits or want to give mouth taping a go, this is your sign to do so. Click the link in the show notes and use the code CATCHUPS20 to try mouth tape today. I promise you, you will never sleep better, and just thank me later. Now let's get back to the episode. Such an amazing story. Such an amazing story. And I think so much of what you just said is so interesting. Firstly, like, of course, children will like tasty food. That makes so much kind of sense.
Yeah.
And also you're kind of giving them normal food, like kind of combinations of food that we would eat as adults, but in a child form, which makes, again, so much sense. And giving your children peanut butter at an early age, I'm guessing that's to prevent allergies.
Yes, that's right. There's a LEAP study where they gave children who had eczema, who are more likely to have an allergy, peanut butter early, and the other ones were left to give, they gave it much later. And the ones who were given the peanut butter early did not usually develop the allergy, but the ones who were given it later did. So we know from that. And also in Israel, they were giving bamba, which is a snack that contains ground peanuts. And in Israel, the incidence of peanut allergy is very low because of that.
That is
so we've learnt so much. But in my day, it was like, oh, don't give it for a year or at least 10 months. Same with egg. And we now know that actually if your child has an egg allergy, you should be giving something with egg, even if it's like a meatball with a bit of egg binding, or a chicken nugget with like coating of an egg, because giving a tiny bit of that protein, if they can actually tolerate it, will help them grow out of the egg allergy. But in those days, we were told no egg, not in a biscuit, not in a cake, nothing. So, we learn a lot, and still there's a lot we don't know.
That is so interesting.
Yeah,
I always think my worst nightmare would be to have a nut allergy, because I just love
I love food.
Nuts and all of things like that. So that would be the worst.
But not all allergies are for life, so you can grow out of them.
Yeah, that's very true. So then so obviously your kind of career started with your second child, and then how did as a mother, how did food come into the other children's lives? Like, how did you kind of feed your children? Were they kind of experiments in terms of with all your food creations? They got to try them first?
Yeah, they were my food tasters. So yes, so Lara came along before I finished my first book. So I had 2 children and all the children in the playgroup. So I definitely had loads of tasters. And I wanted to give lots of variety to my children at a very early age, because actually little ones eat pretty well up to the age of like 10, 11 months, because they grow so rapidly in their first year. But around 11, 12 months, their growth rate slows down and become more fussy, and also become more independent, and they don't want to sit in a high chair. So the more things you can get into them at an early age, the better. And then I was experimenting on my own children in the playgroup. And also once they got to the age of 3, 5, and 6, I got them to cook in the kitchen. And, they can roll things, they can grate things, they can mash things, they can count, they can weigh. There's so many things they're learning about maths. So as soon as they could stand on a chair and help me in the kitchen, they were helping me. And by the age of 4, 5, and 6, they were actually cooking supper for us on a Friday.
That is
inviting
incredible.
Their friends over, and they loved it. And I had cooking birthday parties where I would arrange the children in pairs, and they would cook all the food for their tea. And that was the best party that they ever had. They loved it.
That is
because cooking is such a life skill, and you need to teach your children how to cook. And all my children are good cooks now, so it's very important.
Really, really important. I think so. So I always believed that your relationship with food as a mother kind of infiltrates down.
So I wrote this book. I write a lot of books on teaching children to cook. So this one is my first cookbook. So it's all about what they can cook at a young age, and step-by-step photos, so that you can see every single step of the recipe, which is important.
That's
a beautiful book.
Great.
And I've done a lot of books on teaching children how to cook, and they all love to cook. Yeah. And then they're very proud of being part of the adult world and sharing food with you. And I just think that we often think we don't want them in the kitchen because it's messy or it's dangerous. But actually, if we don't teach them that a kettle is still hot when you turn it off and the steam from the kettle is hot, who is going to teach them that? Exactly. And that's when they're going to, have a problem. And when they experiment with a knife, it's better you've taught them how to use a knife. And, they can't cook without being able to use the knife.
Yeah.
And you have to judge, at what age your child would be sensible enough to use a reasonably sharp knife, can actually cut something, as opposed to a blunt plastic knife, which is no good.
Yeah. There's life skills.
It is. And my children, they learnt to cook at a very young age, and now they love good food and they love to cook. And I think a child who learns to cook is a child who will grow up to be a much healthier adult.
Yes, completely.
And won't be reliant on, rubbish food and junk food.
Yeah. And
they love salads. We made amazing salad dressings together, and they absolutely they all love salads.
That's amazing. And it's the foundations of life. And I feel like often children don't have that. especially now we're going into this more kind of convenient world where I think mothers have a really hard decision to make when it's like convenience versus everything from scratch. But again, I feel like you've kind of filled that hole with some of your food products that are on the market, because you probably they're kind of targeting that decision when it's like, oh, what do I now cook for my child? I'm time short. I'm a working mom. I want them to have healthy options. So when did this start coming into play?
I think when I wrote my book, I always thought that one day I would have a food range. But then at the same time, I didn't really have the confidence to think that I could compete with the Heinz and all these big companies. But then Marks and Spencer's rang me up and asked me if I would help them develop their food range. So I worked on that, I think in the year 2000, for nearly 2 years, learned a lot on the job and created a whole range for them. And then I thought I wanted to do my own range. I was quite green and I went to Sainsbury's like by myself. And actually they said I could launch it. So I did. And I found a factory. And now we have these ready meals for 1 to 3 year olds, probably 1 to 4 really. And we have chicken tikka masala, which is actually our most popular meal of all time. Cottage pie. We do a little lasagna, and they're delicious and they are super easy. They take 2 minutes to heat up in a microwave, and they're just so convenient. And then latterly, I've also got actually sometime I've been doing it, my frozen meals, which are great because you can stash things in the freezer and they'll last for ages. They're really good. And we work with the largest frozen food company in Europe making them. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. So we make like hidden vegetable bolognese, and they're absolutely delicious. They're really, really good. They're like a homemade meal. They're based on recipes from my book. And then in the last year, I've started to work with Pots for Tots, which is more of an artisan, like handmade food. And they make little finger foods. And I'm about to launch another range with them because the range we just launched is really, really popular. We do things like fish pie bites, chicken pie bites, cottage pie bites, a chicken tikka masala, just doing a fajita chicken meal. And they're delicious. And they are direct to consumer. So they send them straight to your door. Amazing. So I think convenience food can be good, but it's got to be controlled. And I just think that people are buying all these snacks for their children, which are really bad. There's practically nothing in that snack aisle for toddlers that is healthy. No. It may not contain salt, but it doesn't contain anything healthy either. So just give them a carrot or some cheese rather than something sprayed with a bit of carrot in it. Like it's got 5% carrot. And some of the kind of the fruit winders and all those like sticky 100% fruit snacks, they're so bad for children's teeth. There's bag of sweets, bag of sweets. Cheese is the best thing you can give your child after a meal because it neutralizes the acid on their teeth. For anyone, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really good.
That is cheese. I did not know
but
that.
at school they gave us apple, which is the worst thing because it's acidic.
Yes. Yeah. And you're supposed to start your meal with something like a carrot, aren't you?
Well, I don't.
No, I don't either. But like, I always got told it's good to kind of start the digestive system.
Aperol spritz.
Yeah. Yeah, likewise.
More or less the same colour, so maybe it has something to do with it.
Yeah, true. But I think that's something to do with like spiking your blood sugar levels or something like that. I think.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think there's some study about starting your meal with bread. If you go to a restaurant, like, isn't the right way to start your meal.
I love bread.
Yeah,
I really love bread.
It's a
bread
tricky
is
one.
Great, good bread.
So, what other like pieces of advice do you have for mums who struggle with the kind of balance between cooking everything from scratch plus convenience and balancing that when it comes to snacks, when it comes to preparing food?
Well, it's so easy to make food for your baby because a lot of things you don't even need to cook, like banana, avocado, papaya, mango. They're all very, very good. Carrots you can just steam, and that is very simple as well. And I don't know whether you saw the program on Panorama where they looked at some of these pouches. And of course, I mean, they are heated to a high degree so that they can have a shelf life of like 18 months, which means that a lot of the vitamins are destroyed. And they looked at a pouch, which was a mango pouch, and contained absolutely no vitamin C at all. What is the point? Just give your child some mango. Yeah. And it's probably cheaper anyway. So, okay, there's convenience to maybe when they're out and about, you can give them a pouch, keep them quiet if that's what you feel you need to do. But at the end of the day, it's so easy to make your own. And my app is all about making your own baby food. It has 1,250 recipes, complete digital weaning course on it. And it's in order of like how old your child is. So it's very first foods, after first taste, 6, 9, 9 to 12. And then it's about like quick and easy meals for your little one that your family can eat too. It's got Halloween, it's got everything in it. And they're all quick and easy, and lots of them are just 4 ingredient meals. A lot of them you can the whole family will eat the same thing. And I think that cooking for your child is an absolute pleasure. And it doesn't take long. So I think that's really important. But I also think we start weaning very often now at 6 months. And it's very different if you start at 6 months to when we usually start at about 4 or 5 months, because the iron that a baby inherits from their mother starts to run out at 6 months. So they need red meat, brown meat of the chicken, like foods like spinach and lentils. And a lot of parents just give fruit and vegetables the whole of the 6 months, and that is not good, because your child will be iron deficient, because breast milk and formula milk are not very good sources of iron. Despite containing some iron, it's not enough. And fruit and vegetables, not a good source of iron either. And I try to instill in people, like, sometimes it might be a good idea to start at 5 months with your fruit and veg, and then move on to the critical nutrients that they need to have at 6 months, particularly iron and particularly essential fatty acids, which you can find in oily fish. And that's the only really good source of essential fatty acids. Yeah. So that's something that I think a lot of parents don't know about, and I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, that is so true. If they're starting too late and then they're giving their children iron deficiencies, that is...
Iron deficiency means they're more prone to infection, they're lethargic. You can't see it. It's just like, it just creeps up gradually. It's not like chicken pox. You can't see the spots. So yeah. But it's very important that you don't let them get iron deficient.
So with that, when it comes to breast milk, we touched on this before we started recording, but sometimes now mothers have the decision of, do I breastfeed or do I go formula? What are your thoughts on that? I'm sure there's pros and cons, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's a lot of pressure on mothers to do this, to do that. I mean, I don't think you need to pressurize parents. I think breast milk is probably the best way to feed your child. And if you can breastfeed and it fits in with your life and it's something that you want to do, I think you should do it. And I did it for all my children, and it was the right thing to do. But at the same time, if you can't breastfeed, you shouldn't feel that somehow your child won't develop properly, because they will. They'll be all right. And I think that there's so much pressure, on mothers. And sometimes if you've had a cesarean and you can't sit up, it can be difficult to breastfeed, or you just don't have the milk, or you just don't feel well enough. And I just think, don't beat yourself up. If you can, do it, because I think it's the best way to start a baby's nutrition. But if you have to have formula milk, it's pretty good now.
Yeah, you're right. It is so subjective and case by case, and also there is so much pressure.
But also, like, sometimes someone starts breastfeeding and then they go and see somebody and they say, we should persevere, and they're not getting enough milk. And that's the worst thing. You're much better off taking them off the breast and giving them enough formula milk.
Yeah.
So, you can persevere and actually do the wrong thing. So it's important that you understand that they need a certain amount of milk. If it's not going well, it may not be in the baby's interest to continue.
Yeah, that is very true. And I also feel like there's a really hard balance to strike when it comes to giving your child the treats so they don't binge later in life, but also not encouraging them to eat unhealthy food.
Yeah.
There's probably no perfect way of doing this, but what are your thoughts on this? Because I think it's a really hard balance.
Well, I think it's what they eat over a whole week. It's not what they eat every day. And I think that if you ban treats and they can't have anything sweet, they're going to find it all the more intriguing to have them and seek them out. So I've always believed that you can have treats in the kitchen, but if your healthy food is so good, they won't really want them. So as I said, my children love salad more than anything else, because the salad dressings and the salads that we make are so delicious. They're all on the app and they're amazing. But I also make like oat and raisin cookies, or I do a chocolate beetroot brownie, or I'll do like ice lollies which have vegetables in them. They might have mango, carrot, and banana, and you can sneak things in. But if they want to go to McDonald's, have a chicken nugget, that's fine. And if they want to eat something sweet, that's fine. But actually, if you binge on sweet things and you eke them out over a long period, that is the worst thing you can do. Like a child has a bag of sweets and eats one every 10 minutes, because then the saliva can never wash the acid away. So you're better off giving them these sweet foods at the end of a meal and then nothing in between. And it's not just sweets and chocolates that damage teeth. It's things like raisins or anything sticky that's sweet. So they're not good either. And a lot of children go under general anesthetic to have teeth extracted at a very young age. God. So it's really sad. I think parents sometimes don't realize that even if it's 100% fruit and it's sticky, that causes a lot of damage to children's teeth. Yeah. So be careful.
And it's natural sugars as well.
Natural sugars will do that too.
Yeah.
Particularly if they're sticky.
Very, very true. I do think it's a hard balance, because I love my cooking and I love healthy foods, and I'm always like, I can't wait to create all these healthy treats for my children. But then I'm also like, I remember growing up, my mum didn't let us have Coke in the house, and we used to go to parties and we'd be like
binging on it.
Oh my God. And my mum looked at us and thought, oh God, they are like animals over there. I need to introduce them to have it like
But
at
because
home.
it's there at home, you don't actually particularly want it.
No.
The thing is, we're psychological, isn't it? What we can't have, we want all the more.
Yeah.
So I would not do that. But at the same time, I wouldn't start them on Cocoa Pops. I would start them on Weetabix and Ready Break and make your own granola. Because once you give them that sweet tooth sort of taste, it's more difficult to get them onto like the healthy food. So it is training them to like good food because they have a clean palate. They don't know about salt. They don't know about sugar, and you shouldn't really add salt at all for the first year. You can add some cheese, which gives it flavor, but free salt we don't add. We don't add it to any of our meals or any of our snacks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but they still taste really, really good.
Yeah, well, that's. I mean, natural food is so tasty.
Yeah.
Like we now add salt because we're probably used to eating out, and like I know we've been introduced to other salt things. Whereas, like you say, they've got a clean slate. They don't.
But
know.
you watch people, they're adding salt before they even tasted it. How do they know that it's not? It doesn't taste good, and they're adding it all. It's just, and then that is a massive problem: high salt intake and cardiac arrest, and that's the killer, isn't it? Like, and strokes. You want to make sure that your children don't have too much salty food.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what about when a mother may be following a certain diet, whether it's plant-based or maybe a carnivore diet, and then they want to bring their children up following that diet? What are your thoughts on that? Because I think that's can be quite a tricky one when they're very young. And yes, what are your thoughts on that?
It's okay as long as you know what you're doing. The thing is, an adult vegetarian diet is quite bulky. You have a lot of like brown rice, lentils. They all fill you up. When you think about a baby's tummy, it's extremely small. So what they need is nutrient-dense food. So if you're going to bring your child up on a vegetarian diet, I would say you need to have cheese and eggs because they're what I call nutrient-dense, and they give you the calories to grow plus the nutrients and not too much fiber. So a diet that's good for us is low-fat, high fiber. But for a child, it's different. You shouldn't have too much fiber. So brown bread and white bread is good. And they shouldn't have low-fat products before 2 years. So no low-fat semi-skim milk or low-fat yogurts. They should have full fat.
Yeah.
It's really important. So it can be confusing because it's not what we're brought up with as adults. Vegan, I think, is a bit more tricky because I think, the oily fish is so important for the omega-3s. They'd have to take some supplement for that and also vitamin B12. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult.
Yeah, you just have to know exactly what you're doing. I guess in general, because again, like you say, we think low fat, high fiber, but actually it's the opposite. So you just have to be really, really well educated on what you're doing. And so you've written over 50 books. How do you keep getting the inspiration? Now your children are older, you haven't got your kind of little tasters around. How do you keep going? Because like 50 books in this space is so impressive.
It's a lot of books. I can't believe it sometimes. So there's always changing. Like now you've got the air fryer. That's a new change. Then you had the spiralizer. There's always something. Then we had the plant-based. And there's always new trends and new things. Or I go to restaurants and I think, wow, that was good. I'm going to recreate that. That was a really tasty thing. Or I'll look on TikTok and just like get inspiration. Or I'll go to the supermarket and see what I can buy. Every Tuesday I spend the entire day cooking.
Really?
Literally, because we add new recipes to our app every week. And I develop them on a Tuesday and then we add them on the following Monday to the app.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So I'm always creating new recipes and there's an endless number of like combinations and things that you can make. And I've learned now how to get children to eat things and what has like that magical ingredient called child appeal that will get children to love it.
And what is that magic thing that that helps children?
Well, I think it's not just one thing, but it's the presentation and then there's not too much on a plate and that it's not too many things all mixed up together. They don't like that. Okay. And the ingredients themselves are good and they taste, you're using good ingredients.
Yeah. Seasonal as well, probably.
Yes.
But yeah, like vegetables, I always think that if you're giving anyone vegetables
and just
in season,
to keep on tasting it. When I cook, I keep on tasting. If you don't taste it yourself, you don't know what your child's going to like. But then I have worked with so many children and I know what they like and what they don't like. But they like curry.
How funny.
And curry is good because you can add, garam masala and like mild curry powder. And that adds flavor without having to add salt, which is why curry is very good for children.
That is really interesting.
Our best-selling ready meal is a mild chicken tikka masala.
So funny. Yeah. So funny. What about when parents make their children eat all their food off their plate? Like you can't get down from the table unless you finish your food.
Well, I think that's not a good idea. And I think that you should never force a child to eat. And that sometimes we give into children, we'll give them spaghetti hoops or something just because they won't eat anything else. But actually the best thing to do was say, oh, fine, so you're not hungry, so let them go off and play. Because when they're hungry, that will break the pattern of only eating junk food.
Yeah.
And sometimes children never feel hunger. And so they'll just continue with this very limited variety of foods. It might be chicken nuggets and pizza and plain pasta with butter and cheese. But once your child gets hungry, they will eat something new. And that's what you want. Or you just say, all those foods have gone in the bin and they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're in control of what you buy. And I do see a lot of children, and you know, when my children were young, they come to the house and they wouldn't eat anything. If it was not a chicken nugget or a pizza, there was nothing else they would eat. And that's very unsociable.
Yes.
And my children will experiment and eat lots of different things, and stir fries and like, you know, very thin like steak and all these things. Like children love them. I do amazing like homemade chicken nuggets, but they've got vegetables in them, loads of vegetables. And there's so many ways you can cook food that's delicious.
Yeah.
So you can make your own healthy junk food if necessary. If they are insistent on having chicken nuggets and burgers, make your own.
That's so true though, because you at the beginning of the episode said that you included your dogs as your children, and I'm now referring this to my dog. But when Marley doesn't eat her food, I just take the bowl away. Yeah. And then I'll wait until
But
dinner
it's interesting
time.
with dogs because we don't feed them that often.
No.
So whenever I give them food, they want to eat it.
Yes.
Because it's not there all the time.
Yeah.
So actually feeding dogs is quite easy. But when food is there and you've got your mother or your father around your little finger, you know, you can have food at any time, and you do have food at any time, and there's snacks. You could be fussy. Dogs are not so fussy.
Well, no.
Because they don't quite know when their next meal is coming. Yes. They don't really have a sense of time. Whereas with children, they know they're going to be fed. But if you then change that pattern and they are hungry and they've missed a meal, they suddenly realize, well, maybe I should have eaten that. Yeah. And maybe the next time when they don't eat it, they think, well, maybe she's not going to give me anything else. Maybe I had better try that. And you need to get your child to eat good quality food and not just the food that they want to eat, because it may be just a lot of junk food, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But actually at school it's quite good, because sometimes at nursery, they're more likely to eat something because of the peer pressure of other children next to them eating it.
That is true.
And it's quite annoying because your child will eat a fish pie at nursery and might not eat fish pie when you make it. Yeah. And you think, what have I done wrong?
But it's just the presence of their friends around them.
So actually bringing another child over who's a good eater, or having a reward chart on the wall, and just piling on the praise when they try something new, even if it's infinitesimally small bite of something new, and also ignoring bad eating habits will help a lot. Because if you don't react to them not eating, it's not so much fun for them. And they don't bother anymore. Yeah, because they're looking for reaction from you. They're looking for attention. They're giving the attention for eating rather than not eating. It's hard. I know that's hard to do, but it does work.
Has the whole school food thing been something that you wanted to get into? Because I guess, again, like I remember my school food growing up. Oh my God, there's some horror stories out there, aren't there? So I think, has that been something that you've been like, it's so, because like, you know, as you've been saying, it's so easy to create delicious food. It is. And when you see some of these school food options, you're like, how can they be getting it so wrong? Yeah,
I think the trouble is that I did work with a nursery catering company, and the budget for nursery food is so bad. And I gave them fabulous recipes, but when they made them, I couldn't really recognize what they were, and they cut corners, and in the end I just couldn't work with them anymore because I have standards, and they were just sending food out that it was going in the bin. And it wasn't my recipe, but I had my name on it. So I stopped doing that. But what I would like to do is like create larger versions of the food that we sell in supermarkets and deliver that into nurseries, because it's such a good quality. Yeah. And it's made, you know, in a big factory with very high standards, and it's not expensive, and that would work so well for children's food. Yeah. So one day I would love to do that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. But just because there's a chef at a school doesn't mean that the food is good.
Same in restaurants.
Doesn't mean it's good.
No.
They think, we have our own chef. Okay. But, you know, sometimes they leave all the fat on the chicken, like the skin, and it's all fatty and horrible. Or they put only wholemeal flour in the base of the pizza, and it's really hard to eat, and the children don't like it. Because I go into school sometimes and I teach them about like what foods are good and what foods are not good. And I look at the bag of packs and I get them to put the amount of sugar into a glass of how much sugar is in that particular food. And then they'll go home to their mother and say, you can't eat that, it's not good for you. But then I'd say, like, what's your worst food, or what's your favorite food at school? And when they put their hand up that their worst food was pizza, I'm thinking, like, how is that possible? And then I tried the pizza, and it was like huge, like thick wholemeal dough, really, you could hardly get your teeth into it, and a tiny bit of topping, and no wonder they hated it. but it was like aggressively healthy, which is not good either.
No.
Like it's got to be like something the children will eat.
Food is supposed to be enjoyment.
Exactly. It's got to be pleasurable.
Yeah.
It's got to taste good.
100%.
Especially for children, because they don't care how healthy it is. They only care what it tastes like. And what it looks like.
Yeah.
So we're actually, I would think we are catering for the most discerning food critic, which is a toddler who is, you know, very fussy generally.
Yeah, that is so true.
But then when you win with a toddler, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, you feel really proud.
You do feel really proud.
Yeah, it's so nice.
And when they hold like it in both hands and are feeding from both hands, you know you've got a winner.
Yeah, that is amazing. Now I want to touch on kind of like being a mom whilst building this empire. How was that? Because you're a mom of 3 and you're building all this at the same time. How did you balance it?
Well, there was only 14 months between Nicholas and my second child, Lara. And so they were pretty close together. I think because I'd lost my first child, I wanted another child quite quickly. And I was in that zone of like my life and my work were the same. I was cooking for my children. I was running a playgroup. I was just writing books. And I knew at the back of my mind I wanted to do food. But at the same time, I'd lost a child and I wanted to be a full-time mum, but have a career. So I just slowly wrote more and more and more books. And eventually I started to do food for supermarkets, but 17 years after I'd written my first book, maybe 1999, it was 11 years actually. Because 1999, the first book came out, and in the year 2000, I launched the range in Marks and Spencer's. But I waited because I knew that I couldn't have a full-time career and be a mum and be a good mum. But now that they're grown up, I just feel so lucky that my passion, which is food and cooking and feeding children, is actually my work as well. Yeah. And I'm just as excited as I was in the very early days, if not more so, because I have so many opportunities and so many things that we're doing. We're bringing out a range of tableware in Australia, and my app is my 5th child. I love my app. It's got all my favorite recipes on it. It's amazing. And I think it's really helpful because it's always on your phone. And I guess it's being an entrepreneur. It's not a full-time job. It's not a part-time job. It's a lifestyle. You live and breathe it. I work very late at night. I'm always working and always thinking about the next recipe or the next project. And I have an amazing team around me, and I'm very lucky to have that. So yeah, I think you should do what you love and what you're passionate about. And I am very lucky to have done that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do think
and it's not like work then.
It's not like work, and you can do it and slot it in around life.
Your children.
Yeah, and it never stops.
No.
So yeah, that makes so much sense. Well, I think what you've done is so incredible. And like,
thank you.
Also, I think having 3 of your own children, they are all different in terms of like, so you could try and get them to eat different foods. Everyone's reaction is going to be different. So you had like 3 case studies plus the play group. So, I mean, you've learned so much along the way, and like you say, trends are emerging, different things are coming out, and there's always still so many more things to go, which is just amazing. So I think it's so exciting. And 50 books, I don't think I've met anyone that has written 50 books. It's absolutely incredible.
There's a lot, and I expect there'll be more, but I'm just having a bit of a break.
I mean, deserved. Well deserved. So my final question is always, what is in your handbag? I love seeing what's in people's bags, so please share what's in your bag.
Well, I usually have food in my bag. So I'm into blueberries at the moment because they're really, really good. I just buy them in the supermarket and they're really sweet. So I eat a whole carton of that usually. I have those in my bag and they're easy to munch on. And also my oat and raisin cookies from my Fun, Fast and Easy cookbook, which are my favorite cookies in the world. And I make them every week.
I love that. Do you freeze them or can they just keep?
No, they don't get to the freezer because they get eaten.
They get eaten.
They only take 10 minutes in the oven and they're in one of my children's cookbooks, but they're fantastic. And basically my phone, because I'm always looking and scrolling, and I love Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. I mean, I love all of that. We've embraced all of that technology. I
think that's really amazing as well, because that's where your audience are.
It was my daughter who got me onto Instagram, and I remember I had 78 followers, and now we have 603,000 followers.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And people, like, I will post a recipe on my Instagram, and that same day people will post a picture of they've made that recipe and their child's eating it. And it's so just cool. So lovely.
It's so rewarding.
Yeah, it's very rewarding.
Yeah,
it's instant, like, that worked well.
I mean, I said you had 3 case studies, but actually you've got like 600,000 case studies because like,
no, it's amazing.
Watching all these, I mean, I'm sure like get amazing feedback from mums being like, oh my God, Joe now eats like curry powder and he's never done it before and he used to only eat pasta and butter. And then you like hear another one about,
but also
so
having
nice.
this community, it helps me like get messages across. So actually my first child died because she was kissed by somebody with a cold sore, which then caused a herpes virus, that then caused encephalitis, which is swelling of the brain. I didn't know that kissing a child could do all of that and could be so dangerous. And I work with the Lullaby Trust, and I try to say to parents, like, when your children are very young, like, don't let people kiss them or touch them, like, you know, look at them. But just when they're very young, because they're so vulnerable. And it's funny because the consultant who looked after Natasha, who died, said that's the one piece of advice I would give you when you have your next child: take them to the park in the pram and just don't let them be handed around to lots of people. They're very vulnerable and they don't have all of the immunities that they will get as they get older. And it was really good advice. And, you know, it's something you think will never happen to you, but it happened to me. So I think that message is important. If you can save one person from what I went through, it's 100%. Very valuable, and it will help somebody not have a tragedy in their life.
100%. But that is the hardest when you're a new mom. Of course you want someone to...
Of course you do. You want to show them off and everybody...
proud.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I mean, that is the biggest tragedy ever. But I mean, what a legacy you have created.
Well, she created it. She brought it. If I hadn't had Natasha, I wouldn't have done this.
No,
and if
it's
Nicholas
amazing.
had eaten, I wouldn't have had my career either. So I'm quite blessed that he didn't eat very well.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have thought of writing a book. I just thought the children would open and shut their mouths and just like love food, but they don't, unfortunately. Or mine didn't anyway.
Yeah, but it led you to creating all this, which is incredible. Well, Annabel, thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen. I've loved this conversation. So thank you. Thank you guys so much for listening. And I really hope you enjoyed that episode. I think it's fair to say that Annabel has had an incredible career and it's definitely not over yet. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you will love next week as we are following on from the children trend, and we are joined by Lucy, who is an osteopath and also a pediatric osteopath. And in this episode, we'll be touching on all things tongue tie and kind of dental construction and how our childhood really impacts our adulthood in terms of how we eat and how we breathe. So I think it's going to be a very, very interesting episode. If you don't want to miss that episode, click that follow and subscribe button so you do not miss it when it goes live next week. Thank you guys so much again, and see you next week.